Wait, it's okay. Let me see. Yeah, let me see. Join me. Come. Yeah.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the MPO Policy Committee meeting to order and remind you that this meeting is being live streamed. Before we begin with the main agenda, I'd like to review a few housekeeping items. Members, in order for online attendees to hear, please make sure that you unmute your microphone when speaking. I'm also going to ask that you identify yourself when making a motion or seconding a motion, just to allow the secretary to capture who is making that motion. And for those who are attending in person, I ask that you please complete and sign in on that sign-in sheet located in the hallway before you leave, if you have not done so already. If you wish to make a public comment, please fill out the comment card and return it to a staff member so we can call upon you later in the meeting. For those who are participating via Zoom, please keep your microphone muted unless you are called upon to speak. When it's appropriate on the agenda, we will request comments from those online, and you can indicate your desire to speak via the chat box. Staff is monitoring Zoom, and we will recognize you when it is your time to speak. And with that, I'll ask Erin, please call the roll.
Great, thank you, Sis. And if you are not the designated member, if you could please identify yourself here. So IDOT?
John Donovan here for Secretary Omar Osmond.
CDOT?
Big Christian Murthy here on behalf of Commissioner Carney.
CMAP Frank Beal?
Here.
Thank you. CMAP President Brawley?
Here.
Class 1 Railroads?
Here.
Thank you, Tom. Cook County?
Here.
Council of Mayors?
Here.
Mayor Schilke, thank you. CTA?
Molly Poppy here on behalf of Dorval Carter.
Thank you. DuPage County? FHWA?
Chris Hall, Acting Division Administrator.
Thank you. FTA?
Mark Kane on behalf of Kelly Brookins.
Thank you. Illinois State Toll Highway Authority?
Here, Cassandra Rouse.
Kane County?
Tom Rickert here, representing the Kane County Board Chair.
Thank you. Kendall County? Lake County? McHenry County?
Scott English here from Kendall.
Thank you, Scott. McHenry County? Metro? I think we might need to replace Lynette's microphone. Thanks, Lynette. We got you though. Pace?
Melinda Metzger.
RTA?
Malik Vaishnav on behalf of Leanne Redden.
Thank you. And Will County?
Elaine Bottomley on behalf of Will County Executive.
Thank you. We do have a
Sorry,
quorum
Aaron,
in.
this is Kevin Carrier on behalf of Lake County. I couldn't unmute in time. Sorry about that.
Sounds good. Thank you. We do have a quorum in room. I think we have to allow for folks to participate virtually, but thank you for identifying yourself at this point.
Okay, so requests were received from PACE's representative Melinda Metzger, RTA's representative Malik Vaishnav, and Lake County's representative Kevin Carrier to participate remotely in this meeting. These requests were made in compliance with the requirements of the Open Meetings Act and does require a majority vote of this body by voice vote.
We also received requests from Matt Brawley and John Loper to participate virtually this morning as well.
Thank you very much. So with the amended list of remote participants, we will now call this motion to a vote. All those in favor? Could we just do voice?
Let me amend. We can do a voice vote. Also, Vice Chair Scott Gingler and Elaine Bottomley participating remotely. We do have quorum in room though. So yes, voice vote is fine. We just need a first and a second.
Okay. Entertain a motion. Lynette? In a second?
Second.
Here, thank you. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Great. We will let the secretary mark them present and able to vote on all matters here.
Okay, and now as we move into the agenda, there are no changes. I do have one announcement. We heard earlier this week that the FHWA Illinois Division Administrator Dave Snyder, he is moving on to become the Ohio FHWA Division Administrator. We congratulate him on his move. We wish him the best in his new role, and we also would like to welcome to the committee from the FHWA Illinois Division, Acting Illinois Division Administrator, Mr. Chris Hall, and we look forward to working with you in this new capacity.
Thank you, sis. I wanted to say Dave sends his kindest regards. He learned a lot about the program across Illinois. Really enjoyed working here almost 5 years. Dave was with us in a couple of different roles. And he's got a big task ahead of him in Ohio with a major project with the big bridge that's going on. So he sends his regards, and it's great to be here with you today. Thank you.
All right, well, we welcome you and look forward to working with you again. Next item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes from our joint meeting with the CMAP Board held on October 11th of 2023. With that, I will entertain a motion to approve.
Move approval.
Right, thank you very much. And a second? Mayor, thank you. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those
Aye.
opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to item 4.0, I will now invite Executive Director Alaman to provide her director's report.
Thank you very much and good morning. Happy New Year to all of you. It's nice to see you all as well. It's funny seeing John Donovan to my left here, not in an FHWA role, but in an IDOT role, but we're pleased to still have you around the table here. The last couple of years I have really shown the enduring value of the 2050 plan, the core values that we put in place under the umbrella of that plan, I think have helped us navigate what has been some challenging times, from a pandemic to really understanding the importance of equity and inclusiveness across our region, to really thinking about what's coming on the horizon related to our climate and how the work that we do here as the MPO Policy Committee can have a positive or a negative impact on that future is just so important. The work that we have done for part is illustrative of that. And I know that we have a number of major projects coming up this next year that we look forward to engaging you with on many of those same topics here. You know, recent shifts have also demonstrated and demanded that we think differently about how people move across this region and how we provide facilities for them to get to those places that we need to go. And so as I reflect on the conversations that many of you have been having as we develop the 2050 plan, it's been 5 years since we adopted that plan. We are excited to take a new approach to the next regional transportation plan here, thinking about the principles, the policies, the goals, but also really setting that vision for what's to come. And so I wanted to just highlight for you all that that is on our agenda. We will have substantial discussions on what that is and hope to get your concerns, your thoughts, your visionary ideas for the future at upcoming meetings. Because we will be setting out for sort of, I'm not going to say 2060 yet, but thinking out into the future a little bit beyond where we were in 2050. At the same time as we want to set that vision, we are required to produce a significant regional transportation plan that looks at budgets and projects and programs, and that'll be due in October of 2026. So you will see invites from my staff to many of your staff to talk about regionally significant projects in the coming weeks. So know that that is on the horizon. And while October of 2026 does seem like a long way off, I'm always surprised at how this long range planning does really ramp up speed and become a snowball. And we just don't have all of the time to do the things that we want to do. So get ready, buckle up because it's coming. So that is it for me on my announcements here this morning. I've got more on our annual report and our proposed UWP draft budget at this time, a little bit later on the agenda.
Thank you, Erin. We'll go with the packet. Yep. Sorry, we've got a little bit of, yep, CMAP updates, yep. Okay, apologies, notes were just a little bit out of order on our agenda. The next item before us is item 4.02. This is the CMAP board report. So please note that there is a Scrivener's error in the title, and I see that has been corrected to indicate CMAP board update, and I will now invite Mayor Browley to provide his report.
I think, Mayor, if you don't mind, because I am in the room, I believe my staff told you that I would provide the report here this morning.
Yes, they did. Thank you.
Yes, of course they did. Hold on. Here we go. The MPO met jointly with the CMAP board in October. The board did not meet because we did not have a quorum in November and December. At the CMAP board's yesterday meeting, January 10th, although it feels like a lifetime ago, we approved the 2024 roadway safety performance targets. Again, this item will be up for discussion and consideration today at this morning's agenda. The board was also updated on the CMAP's regional climate plan of action efforts here. We're developing a regional climate action plan for the Chicago metropolitan statistical area, a little bit larger than our typical MPO boundaries, but we have partnered with the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus, who is the primary grantee for this, working collaboratively with them and our partners in Indiana and Wisconsin on this. We've also partnered with two national laboratories, Oak Ridge National Laboratory and Argonne National Laboratory, received about $500,000 to do transportation modeling related to emissions, greenhouse gas emissions, and other co-pollutants for the regional transportation network. So we're very excited to kick that work off and be able to work with our national partners on this innovative strategy here. The board also received highlights regarding the 2023 annual report and introduction of the FY 2025 proposed budget and work plan. That is the report for the CMAP board meeting yesterday and the last couple of meetings, which we did not meet. So happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Erin on her report? Okay, thank you, Erin. And it seems that I was the one that took us out of order, so I'm going to apologize for that confusion as the note pages got shuffled. We will resume the regular order here with item 5.0, the informational items. And at this point, we will have you turn your microphone back on, Director Alman, if you will, to provide that update on the CMAP annual report.
Thank you very much here. Just a brief overview of our annual report this year that was just delivered. You should have a copy at your place here. You know, we, again, as I mentioned earlier, reflected on our successes this year, and those are due in no small part to our staff's dedication to the work that we're doing, but also to our committees, the MPO Policy Committee, the CMAP Board, and our Transportation Committee, Climate Committee, and Regional Economy Committee as well. You know, these shared successes have really spotlighted a strong, a thriving, and a resilient Northeastern Illinois. Again, this annual report to the board and the MPO and our communities is required by the Illinois General Assembly and the Regional Planning Act. But again, really just wanted to reflect on our shared goals and our progress towards our 2050 plan here. If I could have the next slide. You know, together, many of you, I think, have not forgotten that we spent a lot of time last year talking about the plan of action for regional transit, really recognizing that it is imperative that we come up with solutions for this fiscal cliff that our transit agencies are facing, because they are just so critical to our economy here and our transportation options for people of Northeastern Illinois here. Next, also, we've focused on transportation related to accessibility and making sure that people across our region, whether you're able-bodied or have a disability, that you're able to have the same access to the types of transportation and walkability assets or curb cuts assets. And so our work on accessibility has really been focused on making sure that our communities are in compliance with the ADA, developing transition plans, making sure that there are trainings available.
Looks fine. Looks great.
I'll just ask if you're online, make sure to mute your microphone. But that in 2023, we held several ADA training events attended by more than 300 people. We have a series of evergreen videos that now are available for staff at municipalities that are required to keep in compliance here. And then together, we also launched the Safe Travel for All Roadmap, a collaborative safety planning program in partnership with the Illinois Department of Transportation and the region's counties to address the rise in fatalities on our roadways. And so while we will be talking about those performance metrics and the approval of those performance metrics, you know, it is a critical challenge that our region faces that I think deserves the time and attention of this board and this committee, so that we can think about how we really stave off these increases that we've seen over the past few years. On climate, you know, we again have been advancing our goal to mitigate and adapt to the effects of a changing climate here. Again, we've had climate action planning webinars. We've got that major climate planning initiative that we're doing in partnership with those two national laboratories. So we are excited about forthcoming work related to climate and that intersectionality between our transportation system and climate. In the economic realm, it's almost a year to the day here, we announced the Greater Chicagoland Economic Partnership, a first of its kind partnership for our region. While it's been tried before, we think that this partnership at this moment in time is proven to have some key ingredients to make the partnership very successful. We've seen the county economic development leaders and World Business Chicago come together, share their assets, share their research, and really put the region forward first to make sure that we aren't losing out on business opportunities that could potentially come to the region. So we continue to be excited about this, and I hope to bring more information to this committee as well on that. And then, CMAP wouldn't be an organization if not for the people who are here. So really making sure that we are working with our staff to make sure that we are hearing from other community-based organizations on our work, making our work better understandable to the public, but also recognizing that sometimes we might not have all the answers. And so really looking to expertise outside of our normal structures through our Community Alliance for Regional Equity program, which brings 12 community-based organizations together to talk about our work and make sure that our investments and the way we're the language we're using even to talk about transportation and infrastructure is accessible. And then really recognizing folks from across the region through our State of the Region Excellence Awards here as well was a highlight of this last year here. And then I got ahead of myself here. I started talking about our people, but making sure that we're prioritizing the people, our culture, maintaining a competitive workforce is really high on my priorities here because without them, we cannot get this work done. And I know that they are resources to you as well. And I want to make sure that we are maintaining that high quality team here to be able to do the work and the type of work that the region has come to expect from the agency here. So thank you to our team as well. And just to close, those are just a few key highlights from our annual report. It's available online. We have hard copies if you're interested as well, but certainly 2023 proved that we are stronger when we work together. So with that, we can move on. Unless there are questions, we can move on to the next agenda item.
No questions. I think just a comment. I just want to commend you, Erin, and your leadership working with the staff. Each one of these initiatives taken by itself is a big lift and has critical importance to our region. Putting them all together and accomplishing really high-level expectations in a single year and the support that you provide to each of us around the table and other agencies in the region. I just want to commend you, the staff, on this great work. It is truly a commendable year and very much look forward to the year ahead.
Oh, thank you. I'm honored to continue to serve on behalf of the region and work with you all on critically important, also hairy and challenging projects, because I know when we come out on the other side, we may have a little rough and tumble to get there. But we all are, passionate about the work that we do in making this place a premier place for people to live, work, and do business. So thank you, sis.
All right, and we can move on unless there are any other questions or thoughts to be shared before we move on to the next agenda item. Okay, with that, we will move on to the introduction of the proposed fiscal 2025 budget and work plan.
Great, me again. This is the time of year where we are cramming to make sure that we have our proposed budget and work plan together. While the board is responsible for a comprehensive budget, this body is really particularly interested and important to the way that we spend our federal UWP, our Unified Work Program funds as well. So I'm going to walk us through a little bit about the timeline next and get into some of the high-level details of what you'll see in the proposed work plan. Note that we are still working on making sure that all of our programs and projects are budgeted for. So you will be receiving a more fully fleshed out version of the budget that accompanies this in the next couple of weeks here. So we receive our federal mark from IDOT in late November, and then we develop our work plan from the upcoming fiscal year from July through September in anticipation of that mark. These items are developed in alignment with our strategic direction. So everything we do is focused on accomplishing 2050 goals, but there are so many goals in there. One of the things we want to do is make sure that we are taking off as much of a reasonably bite-sized chunk of that as we can. And so that strategic direction really guides us as to what we're prepared to do, what we have the resources and the capacity to do on an annual basis here, but looks forward in a 5-year increment as opposed to a 30-year timeframe like 2050. The UWP subawards or pass-through grants are finalized. Those budgets are finalized with our partner agencies in December. Today's brief introduction will be followed again, like I said, with a more detailed presentation about the Unified Work Program and budget at your March meeting. But the preliminary documentation that we need to submit to IDOT is due mid-February. Then draft agreements are completed and submitted to IDOT in April and signed so that we can have an operating agreement in place by the beginning of the fiscal year, which is July 1 of 2024. So this UWP budget, which the committee approves, also focuses on our transportation work and will be shared with the Transportation Committee again, and then we'll be back in front of you at your March meeting on March 14th. So what is the UWP budget? The UWP budget, Unified Work Program budget, funds the core UWP federal planning requirements. So the 2050 plan and all of the work that goes into that, the Transportation Improvement Program, data and planning for safe and complete streets, socioeconomic modeling that forms the foundation for the analysis and evaluations for programs and projects across our region, and then really making sure that we're helping support the implementation of those local programs and projects and policies through things like our planning assistance programs as well. For these core funds that we distribute to our partners, eligible partners participate by submitting budgets to fund transportation and planning activities that they conduct on behalf of the region and to participate in the regional planning process. So things like the Planning Liaisons Program or staff that help at different agencies to put information into our Transportation Improvement Program so that we are compliant with federal rules here. Again, these funds help those partner agencies be able to accomplish and participate the work that's necessary for us to be compliant with federal rules. Also helps us really support the data and analysis that's necessary. So things like making sure that we have good transportation counts for our transit system, really important to our modeling. And so those types of work are works that are eligible here. So we have the core program, and then we have a competitive program. Again, this year we've gone through a process to really make sure that this competitive program is contributing to the goals of 2050. But like I said, transportation planning studies, transit ridership surveys, data purchases that benefit the region are all eligible. And we have committed this year under the new methodology to target approximately $1 million each fiscal year for the competitive program, with projects costing no less than $75,000 and no more than $750,000. I'll also just want to make a quick note too, that with the passage of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, one of the core activities that we must do is make sure that we're spending an eligible 2.5% of the federal PL funds to carry out safe and accessible transportation options. So we are looking to our partners to help us accomplish this goal through that competitive program as well. So the draft, core, and competitive recommended program will be presented to the UWP committee on January 17th. So like I mentioned, I mostly want to make sure that you all are aware that because a large portion of our budget is transportation related, but our state responsibilities require us to think about land use, about housing, about water, about energy, that we are also always seeking grants out from both federal and state partners, and those things are also included in our budget. So right now we have funding from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. We have funding from the National Clean Energy to Community Funding Program to do that scenario planning for transportation greenhouse gas emissions. You'll also see funding in our budget for the additional federal funding for the Safe Streets for All program, Build America Bureau, which is also under USDOT as well, for our infrastructure accelerator work. And then at the state level, we do receive money for the water supply and water quality planning processes that we participate in from the Illinois Department of Natural Resources and from the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency. Also, lastly, but also equally important, we do seek from time to time state planning research funds, additional funds from Illinois Department of Transportation. That's really helping fund this additional work for ADA planning across the region. Our speed management work, where we wanted to get a new robust data set, was supported through that grant as well. And I'll note that moving forward for this next year, we do have grants in, many grants that we're seeking additional funding for from organizations like the Chicago Community Trust that help support our engagement activities here. Also, U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development to do some housing planning work as well. So that rounds out sort of all of the different funding sources that you will see in our comprehensive budget here. The next slide, I just wanted to touch on a couple ways that we serve the region. You know, it really is this totality of the comprehensive work that we do, that policy work. What does a regional freight network look like, right? How does water move in and around our region? It doesn't just stay in one place. And then thinking about how we strengthen our local communities' ability to address these big challenges through our local planning program and our direct technical assistance, whether it's helping them develop capital improvement program plans, getting them ready to and prepared to manage grant dollars that they're receiving either from a state entity or from a federal entity, making sure that they have that capacity, that support throughout the work. And then we also have been making sure that we are looking at our highest capacity communities and seeing what challenges they might be facing as they implement things like EV charging. What might we do to help facilitate that process or help bring our high capacity communities with our middle and low capacity communities together to see if there are synergies for them to be able to support each other. Our team also, and again, I don't think I need to necessarily remind this committee, but evaluates and manages that Transportation Improvement Program Fund with the Council of Mayors in the City of Chicago. Core activity always seems to go on behind the scenes, but I know the team that is dedicated to doing that does a bang-up job and is always really taking a detailed approach to make sure that we are in compliance to that. Next slide. And then the collaboration, right? None of this work should exist on a shelf or in a box by itself. And so we want to make sure that we are talking to diverse stakeholders across the region. And so also that public engagement strategy related to all of this work is important, making sure that we're building coalitions to support the work that we all want to do and help provide that cover, right? When we have big projects that we know are hard, that we're looking for stakeholders that can help us support a more inclusive and thriving regional economy here. Next slide. And then data, again, our state legislation mandates that we're the authoritative data source for the region. We want to make sure that we are continually thinking about that bleeding edge of transportation data and information that can inform good decision-making here, and that we're thinking about how it's related to travel, land use, and policy moving forward, and really understanding how that can help shape our policy work as well. Next slide. Again, not going to spend too much time here. Programming of federal funds, worked on a new process and brought in new data for that carbon reduction program fund, but we continue to work with our councils and cities and counties on STPL, on CMAQ, and on that transportation alternatives program funding that we program here. Next slide. So this is what we've been working on. Again, I've mentioned this, that 30-year plan really drives the framing of all of our work, that strategic direction has identified that transportation, climate, and economic competitiveness and the intersections between those places are the places where CMAP performs our best work. And so that has led us to develop a series of multi-year programs that look at what are we going to accomplish this year, how is it going to build next year, and all of that work can be found in our annual program, annual budget and work plan program here that is available at this time as a draft. Next slide. You will also see in the annual budget and work plan, not only work on those 3 program areas, but the operational work is listed in there as well. Again, making sure that we have financial staff, making sure that we have legislative affairs staff and government relations teams that are here, communications teams, and all of sort of the behind the scenes stuff that keeps us going. So that's sort of the 4th pillar of our strategic direction is our operational team. And that also is included in the annual budget and work plan. Okay, next slide. I think I'm wrapping up here, but just a few highlights on the budget numbers. Again, you will get a more detailed accounting in the coming weeks as we finish tidying up all of the dollars and cents that are in here. But we do have a balanced budget of UWP budget of $34.3 million, which will include about $6 million in partner subawards through that core and competitive program. And this also includes an additional state fund of the planning program funds of $1.8 million. And the required match for this, which comes from our partner agencies, is $6.8 million. And together with the help of IDOT, as we've received additional funds through the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, we've been able to accomplish that as well. So that is the UWP portion of the budget. The totality of our budget is $42 million, but that includes those other grant funding sources that we have here at about $7.8 million. So I talked on this, but where we are right now is that we've got this introduction to the budget and work plan program that next month we will be bringing for approval to the CMAP board, the preliminary budget and work plan for action, and because we do need to submit that draft budget to IDOT mid-February. And then in March, we will complete the UWP companion document that includes a number of the transportation activities. And then at the March 14th meeting, we will be asking you after a presentation to the Transportation Committee for approval of the UWP budget. With that, I will ask if you have any questions about the process or about the program or activities found in the annual work program.
Any questions for Aaron by the committee members? Well, I will say you have an equally challenging year coming up ahead, but I think the strategy that you've developed in the development of your work plan, and again, really keeping it focused on people first, is really going to serve the region well. So I thank you for those highlights, and we look forward to the information coming out here in the next few weeks in further detail. Thank you. Okay, we are now moving on to item 6.0 on the agenda, updates, and my apologies again for inadvertently taking us out of order as I had a paper shuffle. We have already covered 6.01, the CMAP update. We will then move into 6.02, the Council of Mayors report, and I will invite Mayor Shelkey to deliver that report.
Thank you. I just have some brief remarks, and then I want to make a few myself. The Council of Mayors Executive Committee last met. Turn on your mic. Start over again. The Council of Mayors Executive Committee last met on November 7th. At that meeting, the committee had a robust discussion of the STAR Transportation Safety Program, noting local impacts and the importance of quality crash data. The committee also reviewed CMAP's ongoing accessibility to work and plan of action for regional transit part. Finally, the committee approved the FY 21E25 Planning Liaison Scope of Services and made two appointments. President Ketchler was appointed to the STP Project Selection Committee, and President Brady was appointed to the CMAP CRP TAP 1 Project Selection Committee. So that's the report on our meeting from November 7th. I just would like to add that being the chairman of the Council of Mayors for the region, I get mayors from throughout the region call me on occasion for advice or ideas or whatever. And I will tell you that I've referred several of them to the CMAP staff, and I've gotten very positive responses back for the good quality of information and interactions that they've had. And we've got some communities in our area here that are under some significant challenges, and I would cite the community of Hampshire, Illinois, which is out in the far northwest corner of Kane County. And they just had a gentleman elected mayor last year. His name's Mike Reed, and I don't know what he's doing. He's kind of hooked on to me to be his advisor, I guess I would describe it. And when he calls and talks to me, first thing he says to me is, when I got elected mayor of Hampshire, the village board had just voted to create 2,800 new single-family home lots that have been annexed and zoned into our town. And if they're all built upon, it would change double the population of the town almost overnight if it was all to happen. But we got situations like that happening, and there are parts of this region that are experiencing significant growth. And out in Kane County, we're really kind of finding it in our face. In Batavia, I've had 540 new single-family residents built in the past year. It's a lot of houses. And the other thing that's happening in Kane County is that we became the site of significant number of senior living communities. I've got now 6 in Batavia, and I've got conversations going with 2 more that want to come in. And it's a very interesting thing to have. It's had some impacts on us. This past year, my fire department, who runs an ambulance service, responded to over 5,000 calls. And we've never been anywhere near that number, but when we went into the records, a lot of them were coming out of these 6 senior living communities that we have in our town. So the fascination of the thing, I will tell you to my staff is that when you get these senior living communities in town, many of these people have no technology, knowledge, or skills whatsoever. From operating the screen at the McDonald's restaurant to understanding where the TV channels come from. There's some of them that have they're against the wall when it comes to technology. So that becomes a big challenge for the cities to answer these questions. I've got one person in my city now that does a lot of just technological counseling of what's going on. On the other side, I've got 2 police officers now that spend almost their entire time dealing with crime on technology that's coming to them in our community. So there's a lot of different things that are happening. And I think CMAP is with the leadership we now have, we're in the right time at the right place in the history of the Chicagoland region, because we've got some very unique challenges that have just kind of raised their heads at us. And I think we're fully prepared to handle it. So I just wanted to say some nice things about CMAP today, because out in the street, so to speak, we're getting to utilize them and tap on them for advice and direction on a more regular basis than what many people would think. So I'm just very thankful we have CMAP as part of the Chicagoland region. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Great points, Mayor. And again, as we heard about the upcoming work plan, we see those as pillars, and your testimony here, that is a living example of the great work that CMAP does day in and day out. So thank you very much for sharing that. Moving on to item 7.0, other items here for approval. We will hear from Victoria Barrett, a senior transportation here at CMAP, on the 2024 roadway safety performance targets. Welcome, Victoria.
Your microphone's also not on.
Thank you.
Squeeze on your left-hand side.
Right hand
Oh,
side.
right-hand side. Okay. Using my right hand. My other left.
Okay, that's better. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. My name is Victoria Barrett. I'm a senior planner in our Policy and Implementation Division here at CMAP, and I'm here today to present the 2024 roadway safety targets for your approval. Today, I will give a quick overview of the roadway safety targets. I will present the official 2024 draft roadway safety targets for your approval and share with you a couple recommendations related to target setting today and in the future. The Roadway Safety Target Program is part of the FHWA's Transportation Performance Management Program, which addresses a number of issues in our region, such as pavement condition and transit safety. They are required within the Highway Safety Improvement Program, or HSIP, through IDOT. MPOs have been required to identify targets since 2018, when MAP 21 legislation came into play. And they are set annually, generally in August for IDOT, when they submit their annual report for the HSIP program. And then we identify our targets for CMAP by the end of February. The slides are going slow. I know these by heart, so I'll keep going. In September, this is kind of the process that we go through each year in terms of setting the roadway safety targets. We receive the targets from IDOT in September after they're submitted to the FHWA. In November, we present them to our Transportation Technology and Operations Coalition for discussion. We brought them to our Transportation Committee in December for further discussion, and then they approved them to bring them before the board yesterday and today here before you. So the one thing to know about targets is that MPOs may support state targets, which is in fact what most MPOs do currently in the United States. But they may also identify regional targets, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit more later in the presentation. To date, CMAP has supported IDOT's targets as identified in the HSIP annual reports for all years. But I also want to make a note that in our Onto 2050 report, Onto 2050 plan, CMAP has identified a goal of 0 traffic deaths by 2050. So this is a lot of information. I think the things to understand on this chart, this is kind of the assessment of our performance thus far. There are 5 targets that are listed on the left side of this chart: number of fatalities, rate of fatalities, number of serious injuries, rate of serious injuries, and then a combined metric of the number of non-motorized fatalities and serious injuries. Of course, we want all those numbers to be going down. Currently, the fatalities, as Aaron mentioned, have been trending upward, and that's something that has been happening since about 2014. It spiked during the pandemic. While it is currently appearing to drop a little bit, it is still far beyond pre-pandemic numbers. So it's a very alarming trend. So you see the orange arrows indicating that both the number of fatalities and the rate of fatalities are currently trending upward still. So I'm going to go over the targets that we have identified for 2024. This is them in one chart, but I'm going to show them each individually with a little more context as to what they mean in relationship to trends. So for traffic fatalities, which I mentioned have been trending upwards, the method of setting a target is a 2% policy-based reduction. That reflects a desire to reverse the upward trend in fatalities and identify a target that's aggressive and within reason and hope. That target for 2024 is 1,121.9. The rate of traffic fatalities per vehicle mile traveled, here 100 million vehicle miles traveled, has been identified using the same methodology, which is a 2% policy-based reduction, and that target for 2024 is 1.105. Serious injuries have been trending downward, as indicated on the chart below. This must be taken in context with the upward trend in fatalities. There's a belief that crashes have become more deadly. So the drop in serious injuries must be paired with the increase in fatalities. Nevertheless, this target is set slightly differently to indicate a continuation of the downward trend, and that's a least squares regression model. And that target for 2024 is set at 8,418. Similarly, the rate of serious injuries per 100 million vehicle miles traveled is set with a least squares regression, and that target is set at 8.498 for 2024. And at the state level, there has been a slight decline in non-motorized fatalities and serious injuries. So the target has been identified, again, using the least squares regression method, and that has been set at 1,375.7 for 2024. So those are the targets that have been identified for 2024, and they are for your approval here today. I want to share with you this opportunity to just mention that CMAP and many of our partners, and many of them here in this room, are committed to reducing traffic fatalities to 0. 0 is the only acceptable number of traffic fatalities, but these are hopeful goals for 2024. And in the meantime, we will continue our robust portfolio of safety work, which Aaron just went over. I think I counted 12 safety projects going on currently at the agency, with more to come, and all with a very clear focus on implementation and alignment with local partners. And then finally, I want to mention that our hope, and we've been discussing this with members of our transportation committee, is to set our own regional safety targets, particularly at the end of our Safe Streets and Roads for All planning program, which will give us a robust list of projects and needs in terms of safety. And we hope to have regional targets when we are completed with the next long-range transportation plan. I'm happy to take any questions.
Hey, Victoria, thank you so much for that presentation. Any questions? Okay, one comment I would just make, I just want to thank you and the CMAP team for the level of effort that has gone into this analysis. This has been a labor of love over the past 6+ months, and I know my team has engaged very deeply with CMAP staff on this very important topic. And I think with the federal grant that's being executed on safety, we are really going to have this in a much tighter lens as we move forward. So again, great work on this very critical topic. Hearing no further questions or comments. Yes, Tom, please.
Another comment. I just want to thank CMAP too for the Safe Streets for All effort. We're excited about the opportunity. We hope to start our portion of it for Kane County within the next few weeks. So thank you, CMAP, for pulling all that together.
Thank you for being a strong partner.
Yeah, thanks to the team. I know that there are many people in the room that spent a lot of time getting that grant off the ground, and also the partnership between the counties and Illinois Department of Transportation. I think it was, for us, a unique model. Often we don't receive local revenues outside of our contributions from our counties, our transit agencies, and our municipalities. So we aren't a taxing body. So oftentimes when these big grants come around and they ask for 20% local match, we just can't do it, but we know how important it is. And so we worked and you worked. We may have made every county crazy by going to your boards, getting agreements signed. But I think in the end, it will go a long way towards us making some positive steps towards safety, reducing the fatalities across our region.
Could not agree more. It's worth every penny. With that, I'll now entertain a motion to move approval of the 2024 safety performance targets.
So moved.
Mayor, thank you. And a second?
Good.
Frank, thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those
Aye.
opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next item on our agenda is item 7.02. This is the approval of the 2024 Public Participation Plan, and we will hear from Jane Grover. Jane, welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Executive Director, Jane Grover, Principal for Public Engagement. This is the second item on your agenda this morning for your approval. There's a memo and the draft Public Participation Plan linked in your agenda. A reminder that a Public Participation Plan is required by federal law. Ours intends to do more than is required by federal law. It intends to guide the public on where the opportunities are to guide the agency's work. We're also looking to both guide agency staff on meaningful and effective public engagement and highlight some best practices with a focus on engaging communities that have been historically disengaged from the public planning process. I want to highlight a couple best practices that actually come from the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning. One is the Community Alliance for Regional Equity that Erin mentioned in her earlier remarks, and that the innovation there is to pay community organizations, it'll be 15 this year as the second cohort gets underway, to lend their expertise and community experience to the agency to guide our work. Another is our online public engagement tool. The Engage with CMAP tool is a platform that we've used beyond just local planning projects and that we use now to help with both our Future Leaders in Planning Youth Engagement Program and resources for new committee members. So we have innovated in using this online platform. And then another is the creative use of zines or magazines on some of our local planning projects, one of which won an award this last year. And it's a way of bringing the local planning project recommendations to life in illustration. We sought a lot of feedback along the way about this public participation plan. Before we even began drafting the plan, the FHWA asked us in their federal certification review to be sure to include everything we've learned in the past few years about hybrid and virtual public engagement, and this plan does that. The last plan was in 2019, and it's not a stretch to say that public engagement practices have evolved quite a bit since 2019, and both our plan and our actual engagement practices reflect those changes. We submitted an early draft to the Regional Transportation Authority, the RTA, for its comment as this public participation plan doubles as theirs. Members of our Citizen Advisory Committee reviewed a near final draft of the plan, and their suggestions were incorporated into the draft that you see. And some of their advice was to more explicitly address accessibility in this plan, which we've done. The draft plan was published for mandatory public comment for 45 days from the end of August until early October. We received no public comment during that time. And then the Transportation Committee considered and approved the plan at its meeting back in September. When we put this in motion to develop a public participation plan, we had originally intended to present it to you for approval at your October meeting, but perhaps you recall a thing called the Plan of Action for Regional Transit that took a lot of your time during that October meeting, which is why it's on your agenda today in January. So here it is for your consideration, and I hope approval. We'll be preparing the next public participation plan sometime in 2027, and it'll be interesting to see how public engagement evolves and improves in the interim. So thank you very much. Any questions?
Any questions for Jane or comments? Okay, Jane, thanks so much. And it's really great to see the creative and innovative ways that you're approaching public engagement. It goes beyond engagement, but public participation. So I think those are two words that sometimes can get interchanged, but it is that consistent participation that I know you're seeking. I think you've laid out a wonderful plan to do so.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, so any other questions, comments? Okay, with that, I will now entertain a motion to move approval of the 2024 Public Participation Plan.
So moved.
Mayor, thank you. In a second. Lynette, thank you very much. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next item on our agenda is the ONTO 2050, 2024 to 2028 TIP conformity analysis and the TIP amendment memo. We will now hear from Russ Petroyak. Welcome, Russ.
Okay. Last item on your agenda for approval today. Also included in your packet today is the ONTO 2050 TIP conformity analysis and TIP amendment 24-04. As you know, the CMAP region is non-attainment for ozone. Thus, we are required to demonstrate that projects in the TIP conform to the motor vehicle emissions budget for our area through a regional emissions analysis. This past summer was one of the worst ozone seasons in recent memory. There are 34 days where ozone monitors went off, which is about 3 times more than in the previous year. There are 16 ozone monitors in the region, and if one monitor goes off 4 times in a year, the region is considered to be in violation of the current ozone standards. All the monitors went off 4 or more times this past summer. Wildfires were certainly an outsized contributor this summer, but ozone monitors started going off in mid-April. They started going off in mid-April, and the one in Kenosha went off in October. Based on the data, the region is going to be in non-attainment for a while. Thus, the conformity requirements are not going away anytime soon. Specifically, projects. So, is there an issue? Can you get closer? Yeah. Push it further away.
Voice carries.
Oh, sorry. I project. I'm sorry. Based on the data in the region is going to be in non-attainment for a while. Thus, the conformity requirements are not going away anytime soon. I don't project that much. I really do. Wow, it's quite a. All right, third time is the charm, hopefully. All right, specifically projects in the TIP, subject to air quality analysis requirements, demonstrate one model that the region does not exceed our motor vehicle emissions budget, which is shown near the end of the memo in the packet. The memo and the list of projects that are new or had changes was discussed at the Tier 2 interagency consultation meeting on November 30th and was available for public comment for 30 days, which closed on December 11th. The Tier 2 members did not have any concerns with the conformity memo. We did, however, receive one public comment that asked about Metro locomotives on the UP North Line. It should be noted that Metro did not have any projects on the conformity amendment. The comment was forwarded to Metro, who has provided a response to the individual that submitted the comment. At this time, staff requests approval of the semi-annual ONTO 2050 TIP conformity analysis and TIP amendment 24-04 by the MPO Policy Committee as presented, and I can answer any questions, hopefully without the microphone going weird again, at this time.
Yes, thank you very much for that update. Any questions from the committee? Okay, seeing none, can I please get a motion to move approval of the ONTO 2050, 2024 to 2028 TIP conformity analysis and the TIP amendment memo?
So moved.
Mayor, thank you. In a second.
Second.
Sandra, thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Russ. Okay, moving on to other business. I'd like to ask now if there is any business to be brought before the committee. Okay, seeing none. Moving on to item 9.0, public comment. We will now take public comments from individuals who wish to address the committee, from those who are in the audience first, followed then by remote participants. Do we have any public comments today? Okay, we do not have anyone in the room wishing to address the body, so we will now move online.
Happy New Year to you. Madam Chair, it's Garland Armstrong, formerly of Des Plaines, now living in Des Moines, Iowa. How you doing?
Good morning, Garland. Happy to have you with us here today.
All right. And I just want to give kudos to everyone over there, especially to make sure for the disability community and the low income, give kudos to them, especially when there is for the climate part, especially when we have breathing air, because that's the most important of all, especially for people who have extreme asthma and other things too. So I just want to give kudos to that. And then also, we need to make sure to translate it in different languages, especially those who cannot speak clear English, to make sure what's the problem right now. So that means so that they can be well prepared and how they can get involved in it so that they want to have a cleaner air in their communities. And also, I want to give kudos to Mayor Schuelke to make what he said in there. But I'm also concerned, especially for the seniors who are disabled, don't understand digitally or technically. That's why sometimes we need some more training, especially how to tell experienced ones that if cyber criminals starts to come in there and do something so drastically, and how will the seniors, especially those who are disabled, be extremely well prepared so that they need to be aware of this crazy ideas, what they're going to do, and so that they can be defensively on their side, that they will not be tolerated. So make sure the mayor there understands to make sure that the seniors who are disabled in the community, that they be extremely well prepared so that they won't be a target of it, because that's what cyber criminals loves to do, target randomly for no reason. And also to make sure that especially for the highways too, especially for those people who are going at extreme high rate of speed, and for those who cannot speak clear English, we need to make sure to translate them why they're going at a high rate of speed and should follow the speed limit, because there are some out there who are going to excessive high rate of speed and really can't understand in English. So we need some translation of that in languages so that they can be well informed of it and really don't want to say, is that all in just English, and can't understand it, what it means. So that's why we need some more education on that. So those are my three ideas. And I'll be glad to answer any questions or comments from y'all if you want to say anything about what I said.
Thank you very much, Garland. We really appreciate your feedback. Any other members of the public wish to address us? Is that it? Okay, and that concludes our public comment. Our next meeting is scheduled for March 14th. That will be in person as it has been. Next, we'll take a motion to move for adjournment.
So move.
Mayor, thank you.
Second.
Okay.
You're welcome to hang out
Yes.
here with us if you all would like.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion? Didn't anticipate it. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those
Aye.
opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. Have a good rest of the day, everyone.
Thank you.